Bumpy Johnson, the legendary Harlem Godfather, died suddenly of a heart attack at Wells Restaurant. He was 62, a man who had ruled the streets for decades with a mix of ruthlessness, charm, and unbreakable pride. For years, Frank Lucas had worked closely with him, starting as a driver and enforcer, learning the game from one of the sharpest minds in the underworld. When the news hit, Frank felt the weight of it. Bumpy wasn't just a boss, he was a mentor, a father figure who taught Frank how to navigate a world stacked against black men in America. But grief quickly turned to calculation. Bumpy's death left a vacuum in Harlem's numbers, rackets, protection, and emerging drug trade. Everyone, the Italian Mafia, rival black gangsters like Nicky Barnes, even politicians, would circle like vultures. Frank knew they underestimated him. To them, he was just Bumpy's driver, the quiet guy in the background. But Frank had been saving, planning, waiting for his moment. Days later, at Bumpy's funeral, held at St. Martin's Episcopal Church on Lenox Avenue, thousands packed the streets to pay respects. Floral wreaths lined the walls, and the mahogany coffin drew mourners from all walks, community leaders, celebrities, gangsters pretending to grieve while eyeing the throne. Frank arrived dressed sharp, carrying himself differently. Whispers followed him, but no one saw him as the heir. That perception was his edge. In the aftermath, Frank moved fast. He didn't declare war. He built alliances, enforced loyalty, and outsmarted rivals. What cemented his rise wasn't a single dramatic gesture, but a reputation for boldness, smarts, and deep pockets. Rumors swirled that he had resources no one expected from a nobody. By the end of 1968, Frank Lucas was positioning himself as Harlem's new power. He proved he had the vision, the money, and the nerve to hold the territory. Gangsters who doubted him soon learned, underestimating Frank was a mistake. Frank didn't waste time. Rivals tested him. Nicky Barnes tried grabbing spots, thinking Frank was weak without Bumpy. Frank handled it surgically, a mix of threats, incentives, and smart partnerships. He turned potential enemies into assets. Barnes, flashy and ambitious, became the public face, Mr. Untouchable, drawing attention while Frank operated in the shadows, quiet and ruthless. The Italian Mafia, led by figures like those in the Lucchese family, watched closely. They taxed Harlem for years, taking cuts from black operations. Now, with Bumpy gone, they expected to tighten control. Frank met them head-on. In a tense sit-down at a neutral spot, he laid it out. Harlem would run independent, no more tributes. He argued the community would back him, not outsiders. Chaos would hurt everyone's business. Impressed or cautious, the Italians gave him space, a probation period, to prove he could hold power without their protection. Frank took the deal, knowing it bought him time to build something bigger. Chapter 3, Building the Empire. Frank's genius was innovation. The heroin flooding Harlem was expensive, cut to trash by Italian middlemen, $50,000 a kilo for low-purity product. Frank cut them out entirely. In 1969 to 1970, he traveled to Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle, Thailand, Vietnam era, connecting directly with producers. Through military contacts like Leslie Ike Atkinson, he sourced pure heroin for a fraction of the cost. Smuggling was clever, hidden in furniture, military transports, or other secure methods avoiding detection. Legends of coffins added flair, but the real pipeline was airtight and invisible. His product, branded Blue Magic, was uncut fire, superior quality, sold cheaper. Streets flooded with it. Dealers switched loyalty. Within months, Frank dominated Harlem's trade, pulling in massive profits, hundreds of thousands daily at peak. He structured like a CEO, employees on salary, no partners sharing power. Loyalty enforced, betrayal rare. He stayed low-key, nice suits, but no flash. Bought properties, businesses, supported family. Nicky Barnes handled the spotlight, Frank banked the money. By mid-1970s, estimates put his wealth in tens of millions. He out-earned the Mafia in their own game, all while flying under radar. For years, Frank was untouchable. Feds chased Italian connections. Frank's direct line stayed hidden. Then, vanity struck. March 8, 1971, the fight of the century. Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier at Madison Square Garden. Ringside seats, celebrities everywhere, including gangsters. Frank showed up in a floor-length chinchilla coat worth $100,000 with matching hat, flashy screaming wealth. Across the arena, Detective Richie Roberts spotted him. Roberts, honest in a corrupt system, had heard whispers of a mysterious Harlem supplier. That coat? Proof of unexplained riches. Investigation started. Years of surveillance, tracing money, crew flips. In 1975, raids hit Frank's properties. Cash, drugs, evidence seized. Arrested, facing life. But Frank flipped, cooperated, exposing corrupt cops, mafia ties, dealers. His info led to dozens of convictions, dismantling corruption. Sentence, 70 years, reduced to 6 served. Out by 1981 with later bumps for violations. Epilogue, the legend, and the lesson. Frank Lucas died in 2019 at 88 natural causes. Consulted on American Gangster 2007, where Denzel Washington portrayed him, mixing fact with drama. He destroyed lives with heroin, fueled addiction, violence. But he also shattered barriers. A black man from rural North Carolina outsmarted the Mafia, built an empire through sheer business acumen. His story warns of power's cost. Bumpy taught, stay invisible, quiet. Frank did, for years. One flashy moment undid it. Real power isn't loud displays, it's smart moves, loyalty, vision. Frank had it all, became king, then reminded us why kings fall. The boldest plays win thrones, but holding them, that's the real game. What do you think? Was Frank a genius businessman or a destructive force who got too greedy? His legacy lives in the streets he ruled and the cautionary tale he became.